3 is directed by Michael B. Jordan, and if you can't tell already by the title, it is the third Creed movie that we have in this new modern boxing era that focuses on life after Rocky Balboa. Obviously, Rocky's not the point of the movies anymore, so obviously we're focusing on Adonis Creed, and so this is the third movie in that series. This is his directorial debut. It also stars Michael B. Jordan, as you would imagine, reprising his role as Adonis Creed. You got Tessa Thompson reprising her role as Bianca. You've got Jonathan Majors as the main antagonist in this movie. The plot is basically about a character named Damien. Damien is played by Jonathan Majors. Damien used to be a world-class boxing talent, but unfortunately he got sent away to prison and he never got a chance to prove that he was the best. Fast forward to modern day, obviously Creed has had a lot of success in his absence, I guess you could say, and now Creed is retired and living the good life. Now Damien comes back into his life and kind of complicates things because he wants a chance, he wants a shot to prove that he's the best. This leads to a rising, boiling conflict between the two men. All of a sudden, it's leading to an epic clash where each character feels like they have everything to gain and everything to lose at the same time. Coming into this movie, I was a big fan of several things. I was a big fan of the previous two Creed movies. I'm a big fan of Michael B. Jordan. Me and my dad used to watch boxing back in the day. I actually used to be a pretty big boxing fan growing up. I remember my dad would gather a bunch of his friends, and maybe some of my friends would be over too, and then he would order the big boxing fights, and then we would go to Ponderosa, get some chicken, and we would all watch it, and it would be really fun. One of my most cherished sports memories is watching one of those like fight of the century type things. I got to watch the fight between Arturo Gatti and Irish Mickey Ward. I can't remember which one. It was the second one, I think. Or was it the third one? I can't remember. I don't know, maybe I watched both of them. The point is, there's a lot of things that I was a fan of going into this movie that set me up to like this movie before I actually got to see the movie. There's no reason why the movie shouldn't at least be good. After I had video issues over the weekend and couldn't put out videos the way that I wanted to because of some technical issues, I am here to tell you on a Monday that this movie is not good. This movie is great. This is a great directorial debut for Michael B. Jordan. This is a great boxing movie. There's so much great in it. It doesn't even have to do with the boxing, but the boxing itself is great. One thing that is not in the movie though that I have to prepare you for is Rocky Balboa. Sylvester Stallone is not in this movie. This movie's trying to kind of stand on its own two legs as a Creed movie. Don't get me wrong, Rocky is referenced in the movie a couple of times, but he's not the point of the movie. And if you go into this movie wanting to see Rocky, wanting Rocky to be a focal point, you're probably gonna be disappointed because this movie is a Creed movie through and through, for better or worse. Like, I didn't know what I expected when I heard that Michael B. Jordan was stepping into the director chair. I just hoped that he would bring his own sense of style and flair to it, that he would make the movie look good, and that I would walk away from the movie going, okay, you know what? Yeah, Michael B. Jordan deserves to be directing more shit. This might be the most gorgeous boxing movie set within the Rocky/Creed franchise. Like, from a cinematography standpoint, it's absolute eggs on a tit. It's one of those beautiful, incredibly shot movies that's not just about like how a scene is framed and how it's filmed and how it looks within that frame, but this is a beautifully shot movie that also invokes visual storytelling to the nth degree. There's one shot in particular in this movie that tells a story of two characters on opposite sides of a wall. Like one of my favorite shots of the entire movie. It might be my favorite shot of any movie that I've seen this year. Amazing storytelling told within the visuals. And I also gotta single out this movie for the soundtrack. The other two Creed movies had really good soundtracks. This movie is no exception. A lot of the songs that are playing in this movie are heavy in my rotation. I always give a big shout out to movies that play a lot of Nipsey Hussle. He packs this movie with as much emotion and as much depth as you could for a movie like this that's about boxing. There's so much that this movie is saying about black men and about trauma and about masculinity and about vulnerability, and he does it in a really beautiful, really refreshing, really authentic way. I love how all of that tied together. The performances here across the board, Michael B. Jordan, you did your thing. You got the best out of everybody. That includes yourself. I love the relationship between Adonis and Bianca. It's even better here. It's more fully realized because they're also going through parenthood and trying to figure out how to navigate that whole thing. Jonathan Majors in the movie as the antagonist, oh my God, he was a force of fucking nature in this movie, for real. Jonathan Majors does a great job at making Damien relatable and vulnerable, while at the same time he is powerful and menacing. There was a little bit of suspension of disbelief coming into the movie because you had to be like, okay, why was Damien not mentioned in the other Creed movies? Why is this something that is just now coming up? How are they gonna sell me on this relationship? The way that they structure the movie and the storytelling, it definitely makes sense. You do buy that Creed and Damien were brothers once, and you also really understand why Creed probably wouldn't talk about Damien that much. And now we can finally get to those boxing scenes because whoo-wee, goddamn, those are some incredible boxing scenes. Michael B. Jordan said that he wanted these fights to have an anime feel to them. He definitely wanted to put a lot of that influence into these fights. And you don't have to be a big anime fan to get it, but there are some great references, some great shonen level influences from anime that are in this movie that are woven into the fights, and he does it in such a stylistic way, such a creative flourish that had me on the edge of my seat, that had the crowd that I watched the movie with, they were oohing, they were awing, they're gasping at all of the hits, and all of the hits feel massive. All of the punches in this movie. But Michael B. Jordan landed an absolute haymaker with this movie. This is one of those Debo, you got knocked the fuck out type of films. Now, having said that, just because the movie packs quite the emotional punch, that doesn't necessarily mean that all of its punches land. You guys like how I'm just like tying the boxing stuff into the review and how that makes me, no, it just makes everything more corny, I understand. I do think there are some predictable story beats that are set up early within the storytelling. I feel like the predictability and the transparency with which these were set up kind of takes away the impact from them when they happen later on in the film. You're waiting for the other shoe to drop, and the movie doesn't really have a creative way that it's trying to tell this part of the story. It's just one of those obvious things, and you're like, okay, well, later on in the movie, this is gonna happen, and guess what? It happens exactly the way you think it's gonna happen. I also think the pacing was a little bit off in this movie. There's some parts where I feel like this film was taking a little bit too much time to set things up, to get the story to progressing where it needed to get to. Narratively speaking, there's some decisions that were made in this movie from a writing standpoint that I don't necessarily vibe with. It's not about the destination that you get to with these narrative decisions. Like, I'm okay with where we ended up at. It's the journey that it took to get there just made me go, okay, well, I think that could have been written a little bit tighter. Overall, these are nitpicks, guys. Creed 3 was amazing. It's everything that I hoped it would be and more. It throws down, it gets real, it holds no punches. I'm not gonna do any more boxing puns or metaphors for this review, but you guys get the point. This movie packs an emotional punch that will not let you off the ropes. I'm gonna give this one the highest rating on my channel, Superman Prime. Give me your favorite Creed or Rocky film ever. Put that in the comment section. Please like and subscribe to the Superfan Show, and if you like what you see, tell me how you feel, and stay tuned to hear more from the Man of Steel. Peace.